about motherhood. 1 minute, you're mom of the year.
I love you, Mommy.
Then the next, not so much. From bath time to bullying, from potty training to puberty, parenting is full of challenges. But one thing is for certain, you are not alone. Welcome to Modern Mom Probs. I'm your host, author, mother, parenting expert, Tara Clark. Join me while we tackle today's modern mom problems. Kati Morton, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So we met briefly for literally about 30 seconds at a mental health coalition event in New York City hosted by Kenneth Cole. You were on the panel and I was like, I am totally fangirling her and I need to have her on my show.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for reaching out.
I love your work. I love everything that you do in the mental health space. Can you just share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to do what you do today?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed therapist. A lot of people call me doctor on accident, not a doctor. I got my degree at Pepperdine University. I'm 41 years old. I feel like that just needs to be said because I've been practicing for a long time. And I decided to be on YouTube. Honestly, it was because my now husband at the time, boyfriend, he's in film production and he has a background in film production. And he had been to this event. I forget what it was for. I think it was like some fitness video stuff, which kind of tracks, I think like 2010 online. And this fitness person was like, you know, it's really great that I can like actually talk to people and I can reach my audience. And my husband was, or my boyfriend, but now husband, he was like, Kati, you specialize in the treatment of eating disorders. You work in this treatment center and every day you come home and complain about like people not understanding it. And he's like, what if we just film some videos so that people could understand? And like any therapist, I was like, no, that sounds weird. And I don't know why you think that's a good idea. And he like persisted. And for about 6 months, he just sent me videos of people doing things online. He's like, look, they're educating. There's all sorts of people on there. And these are early days. So it was definitely like comedy based, but there were Hank and John Green, the Green brothers, who are still online. Love them very much. And just other people doing cool things. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And that's honestly how my YouTube channel was born. It was in December of 2011 that we started. And I would have never guessed at any point, like in my life, that this would be what I'm doing. You know, I mean, yeah, did I ever dream of writing books? You betcha. Did I ever think it'd come to fruition? No. You know, it's been a really wild ride and I just feel so privileged to get to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you're so good at it too. I mean, that's the thing. You are. No, you are. And you're really an early adopter. 2011.
I know. OG YouTube.
OG YouTube.
Total weirdo kind of in a way, like just for reference, like back then, there were no like health educators, period. And I was like the first licensed professional. And I would ask people to collab and they're like, oh, I don't really talk about that stuff. Like there was a lot of, and not in a bad way. They were just like, oh, we don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'll always have like a little extra love in my heart for like early collaborations because I'm like, see, they knew, you know, like, Hey Kaylee was a channel, my friend Kaylee. And she was like, yeah. And I thought, I mean, it was so big in my mind. She had like 100 and let's say 30,000 subscribers, like, oh my God, you know, this is going to be huge. And yeah, it's just great people. Hannah Hart's another good one. There's a lot of early people that reached out and wanted to collab. And I thought that's really cool.
It's super cool. It's super cool. I understand because sometimes I am considered an early adopter in the Instagram space because I started my account just as a standalone Instagram page. And then it sort of like grew out from there. But in a very similar aspect, I started my Instagram page in 2016. It was February of 2016. And I said to my friends and family, I'm going to start an Instagram page about parenting and I'm going to make a business out of it. And they were like, you're going to do what? And I was like, no, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. And then, you know, it obviously became a thing and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry now where people are talking about parenting and mental health and fitness and all the things, right? But at the time, in very early Instagram, we were just taking pictures of our lattes and our salads and our sandwiches, and people weren't having those conversations that we're having now. And so I'm so grateful that social media has evolved to a place where we can have these conversations, not even can and do have these conversations. And so it definitely has evolved from 2011, 2016, and who knows where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, seriously. It is interesting watching it shift from like, oh, we don't really talk about that to like, you don't talk about that. You know what I mean?
You're like, how can't you talk about that?
Yes. Like
it's hard to imagine a time and a place before that. And I think that for a lot of new parents, because again, I see this through a parenting lens, is that for a lot of new parents, they think, well, there was a time on social media where you guys weren't talking about this kind of stuff. And you're like, no, really, my son is going to be 13 in November. And 13, 14 years ago, people were not talking about this stuff back then.
No. And it really has been beautiful to watch like the communities grow. I know there's obviously pluses and minuses to everything.
Sure.
Like there's like the trolls and the like shit talking, but overall it really gave us a space to learn from each other. Like I tell my audience, like the younger members, I'm like, you have to realize that when I was growing up, if I wanted to learn how to do a cat eye, like winged eyeliner, I had to pray to God that one of my girlfriends already knew how because she had an older sister.
Oh, older sister. I was just going to say, I was like, you were praying that someone had an older sister that knew how to do it.
A brother, no help. My mom was not a girly girl. So like, you just like fly by the seat of your pants and you just hope somebody will teach you. And that's why sleepovers were so powerful. And that's when you share things and like, all the stuff. It's wild now, the dissemination of information where I would like go to our encyclopedias. I mean, people would just die.
No,
like we didn't have the internet.
I loved encyclopedias. At one point for Christmas, my mom bought me the entire encyclopedia.
Oh.
Yeah. The World Book Encyclopedia. And she spent a fortune. I'm quoting her. Like she spent a fortune on it. I read that thing cover to cover, backwards and forwards and inside out. Nowadays, people will be like, "You sat and read the encyclopedia for fun?" Yeah, yes. It was tons of fun. What else was I going to do?
How was I going to learn? You couldn't Google things. Like, and if I had questions, like I heard a word on a TV show, I'd go to the dictionary. I'd look in the encyclopedia or I'd figure it out. Like, they're talking about this war. I don't understand this. Oh, and you have to go look and like. Yeah, we had to be really resourceful. Man.
Yeah, no, we definitely. I remember many times watching TV, watching the news and not knowing a word, not understanding a word that they were saying on the news and having to go look it up. Yep, I distinctly remember that, which is wild. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We can talk about this kind of stuff all day. We're here to talk about emotional triggers and control and why do I yell like that? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing?
Very interesting. I think a lot of parents have a tough time. Even my girlfriend just recently, she hates that she yells and then she feels bad about it. And there's a couple of pieces here. Let's start with the parent and then we'll move into like the parent-child relationship. Yeah. So as a parent, as an adult, right, we aren't perfect and we can be run down. There's a lot being asked of us and we can fly off the handle. We can lose our cool. We can get really agitated. I mean, we all would admit that there are times when you just get really frustrated by life, by situations. And it's always the people that are closest to us who end up paying for it because we come home. Usually it's the end of the day. A lot has been going on or it's in the morning and we're rushing. We're not at our best. Mm-hmm. And we lose our cool and we lash out. Now, that's just normal human behavior. And the real answer, quote unquote answer, we're not fixing anything, but like the answer to it is to build up our resilience, which really means filling your own cup. Now, does this mean massages and vacations and face masks? It can, but that's really not sustainable. It might mean I get up 5 minutes earlier so I can have a proper shower without anybody bothering me. It might mean I get up a little earlier so that I can have a real breakfast because I do better when I'm not hungry. I'm speaking personally there. Or, making a proper cup of coffee and having time for myself in the morning or whatever.
That's my thing.
Yeah, whatever you can do, right? And I'm not a morning person, so maybe it means you get to work earlier so nobody's there and you sit at your desk in silence and you like do your daily journaling or whatever. So we have to take care of ourselves first, and building up that resilience will essentially lead to less and less outbursts. So that being said, you're human, you yell. I get it. We all do. Now, when it comes to parent-child relationships and yelling at our children, I'm never going to say that it's good, that like, oh, you should yell, but it's a great teaching opportunity. And I want every parent out there to stop blaming themselves and like shitting on themselves for doing things that regular people do, because that doesn't get us anywhere. It's actually really helpful for us to take those situations or those outbursts and talk to our children about them instead of like withdrawing, which is the normal, like, oh my God, I'm ashamed, I'm embarrassed. What the hell am I doing? I'm a horrible parent. I'm terrible, and all the negative self-talk. Instead of going into that spiral, take a beat and think, this is a great opportunity for me and my child to learn about anger. And instead of pretending that didn't happen, or like I said, shutting down or being like, I'm so sorry, like over apologizing, because all those things tell our children without maybe even saying anything that it's not okay, that we have to stuff it down, that it's something to be apologized for. It's bad. They get that message. So instead you can be like, hey, let's just pretend our child's name is Lily for fun. Okay. So we're like, hey, Lily, Mommy got mad. I've had a really long day. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything. I'm just really run down and I shouldn't have talked to you that way. But sometimes that's what happens. And I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but anger is normal. I get frustrated. You're not the target. I should have said it to XYZ. Now, I know that can sound like a lot, or depending on the age of your child too, you can put it at whatever educational level you think they can absorb. Children are often farther along than we want to admit. But we have to talk to them about it, right? Because otherwise they'll take away messages that it's not okay, and it's completely okay. All emotions are okay. It's just all about our ownership of them and how we communicate to our children about them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I am not a yeller person. I thank goodness, right? Like
Me
knock
neither.
on wood.
Yeah.
And my big issue, I don't know if it's a big issue. I'll just say my issue. I don't know, big. They're like, okay, Tara, that's unpacking a whole nother thing. No, I am not a yeller. I'm lucky that I've been able to do a lot of work in regulation and emotional regulation and thinking through that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty even keeled for the most part. My thing is that stress manifests in giving commands and sort of control, where I'm saying, do this, do that. It should be like this. It should be like that. And so I want to explore that a little bit, because it's one thing to say, if you yell, then repair. Because we hear that a lot. I feel like that's a message in the parenting sphere that we hear very often. There's many other parenting experts that say yelling is fine as long as you repair, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with the yelling is fine part, but yes, I'm a big fan of repairing. But I want to talk about something that I feel like isn't spoken about as frequently. And it's like I said, not raising your voice necessarily, but trying to control a situation. Does that make sense? Are you following me on my question here?
100% following you. It's almost like instead of exploding outwardly, we explode inward, like we implode. And I am of that ilk. Because when you said like, I don't scream, and I was like, me neither, but that doesn't mean I don't want to.
Yeah, that's why I think I used the word manifesting it in a different way. Yes. I think that's how we're channeling. Maybe the word is channeling it in a different ways, where we're not screaming, but we're going to channel it into controlling the situation as best we can. Exactly.
Because whether or not we want to admit it, we're all angry. And I know that sounds, people are like, no, I'm not. It's not a bad thing. We all have anger. Anger is super motivating. It also tells us where boundaries have been crossed. It's a very helpful emotion. But I grew up in a house where nobody raised their voice. And so I don't know how to do it. And it feels very out of control. And so instead of some people grew up in those outward, families that yelled, and that was kind of normalized.
Yeah. I grew up in a family that yelled, but I don't want to be that. So, speaking about swinging the other way. Yes.
100%. And so what that really means is that we all feel the same feelings, but we have different ways of expressing it. And if we don't outwardly express it, we usually do, I don't want to say just one other way, because it's almost like there's twofold. We passively aggressively try to get people to do what we want without yelling. So it's like, I don't want to go to this event, let's say. So I'm going to drag my feet. I'm going to make us really late. Sorry, not sorry. Right. Yeah. Or I understand that you maybe didn't mean to say this and hurt my feelings or not be helpful. And I'm like, no biggie, but then I'm not going to help you on this other thing. So there are ways that we get it out without yelling, which makes it sound like we got it all together, but it's actually just, we try to manipulate them into seeing how hurt we are or how angry we are. Okay, so there's that way. Then there's the internal locus of control, I'll call it, which I'm familiar with both these, by the way. I'm not pretending I don't do this. I'm just saying I understand it, which almost makes it worse, right? So I will try to control, like we talk about the passive aggressive, like I want to get you to do that. That's honestly us trying to control someone else by our behavior. Now, I do this in a lot of ways. I can do it through trying to be perfect. If I'm perfect, I did this growing up. If I do everything just right, then my dad won't travel for work so much. Doesn't really make sense when I say it out loud, but it did to little kid brain me.
But
right?
when you were 8 years old, that made all the sense in the world.
Of course, because what else could I control? Just myself. So I'm going to control what I can. So we do stuff like that. We also people please. People pleasing actually has nothing to do with making other people happy. And it's not a badge of honor to wear like I thought it was. It's more that I'm uncomfortable with you being upset. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're not upset. It's manipulation. So that I can feel okay, right? So we do a ton of different things. We also can control our weight and our exercise, and that can be our way of control. We can put all of our effort into being a parent. I'm not saying this is bad, but it's almost like we ignore our own life and focus solely on our children. And that's because we think we can control that, which becomes its own. Then you're like helicopter parenting. And I know people might not every example is going to resonate with you, but you have to consider the fact that a lot of our life is built just trying to quote unquote keep control when we don't really have any of it. And admitting that is really uncomfortable. So it's like whack-a-mole and they pop up all the time. And so if we don't express our upset outwardly, it often comes inward and it manifests in one of these kind of control type behaviors, like people pleasing, perfectionism, feeling like we can't take up space or we're too much. Like we try to do all these things to control ourselves and our environment so that then we feel okay. Does that make sense?
All of those things. Yes, Katie. Let's talk about every single one of those. I'm like checking the box, like, yes. No, this is the second conversation. Just this morning, I was a guest on someone else's show, and we were speaking a little bit about people pleasing too. And she was saying that she hated that phrase because she's like, shouldn't we want to help other people? Shouldn't we want to please other people and make them happy? And I said, yes, I mean, maybe there's an issue with the phrase because we should want to help people, but not at the expense of our own mental health and not lighting ourselves on fire to keep them warm. So, exactly. I mean, maybe there could exist an opportunity to have a different phrase to maybe make it sound less negative. But the fact still remains is that we should not put our own mental health, in jeopardy to help others. And it's interesting that you're saying about controlling the situation because I am a big people pleaser, always have been. She was asking me a question. She's like, well, can you tell me one story about maybe when it started or one story about, I was like, one story. It's like every day of my life for the last 40 years. Like, where do you want me to begin?
I don't have a story without it. So it's
literally, so I was born in March now. It's literally my entire life.
It all started in 1983.
Exactly. Where do I even begin with that? And because you're laughing and I'm laughing, I know that we're not alone in this. I'm not sure with certain people's individual upbringings or whether it's their gender or whatever it happens to be. It's this is something that is so common that I keep hearing over and over again. And it's work that I know that many women in my community and in my friendship group are working towards. And it's interesting because my husband, and I love him so much, he is the exact opposite. He rubs off on me in a very positive way because he is not a people pleaser at all. And neither is my son. And if my son ever is, it's because I know that I've sort of rubbed off on him in that sense. Mm-hmm. And he is a good mix between the two of us. But I try to look to my husband to be like, help me with this. How are you not like that? And it was really the way he was raised. It was how the dynamic was in his family. And so I think going back to family dynamics is a big consideration in this conversation too. It's how are some people raised to be people pleasers and some people are not?
I think it goes back to our earlier conversation about repair. So I'll give you my life example, and then I'll tell you kind of how that plays out. So my family never argued in front of each other. And my mom will even tell you that from a young age, if her and my dad just had what I would call just a regular disagreement, I'd be like, no yelling. Now you would think I grew up in a family where people are no, zero, never. And so I was really uncomfortable with it. So I never really understood upset or how to deal with people being upset or even, and here's the point, didn't know how to repair it. So even as a teen in early 20s, when I would date somebody and we get in a wicked fight, I'd end it. I'd be like, this is over. Bye. Like I did not know how to repair. And so when we grow up like that, we're incredibly uncomfortable with someone else being upset in general. I don't like being around like drama, people who are shouting. It makes me really uncomfortable. I don't like thinking someone's upset with me. Like the amount of times I'm like, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Oh my God. And like asking these questions. And like, you know, one of my girlfriends sent me this meme recently that was like, when I leave an event, it's like, hey, could you fill out this questionnaire real quick? Like, are you okay? Did I say everything that was good? we're going to talk tomorrow. I didn't piss you off. You know, you're like, yes, we're all good. And I was like, oh my God, I need that, you know, because it made me feel so much better. So because I didn't know how to do that repair, like I'm so uncomfortable with all of that, with the potential that someone could be upset, that I twist myself into knots to try to make sure that you're happy. And so it's really, that's why we grow up that way. And it can come also, I want to throw it out there that like, if we had any abuse in our household, we grew up doing this people pleasing behavior more out of what I would call a fawn response. And if you're not familiar with that term, we talk about fight and flight a lot, but we don't talk about the other two, which is freeze when we kind of play dead, like play possum, and fawn, which is when we extremely people please to try to keep ourselves safe. So if you're happy, you won't hurt me, right? Now, out of abuse and out of what I'm talking about, my upbringing, where it was like there was no argument, no repair, both of those situations give us the same result, where we feel like we have to do everything we can to try to keep someone else happy, to please them, not because we actually care about them being pleased. I know that sounds terrible, but it's not really about that. It's about our discomfort with upset. So that's why. And I would guess that your husband didn't grow up in that type of situation. He probably saw repair, or his parents fought every so often and it was okay. It's like, even if he didn't see the repair happening, like clearly, it was like, oh, but they're still together and it'll be fine. And guys are just a little bit different. My husband's a people pleaser too, but like, I will say like my cousins aren't that way. And like, you know, different people in different situations. I would say my brother's not a big people pleaser, even though we grew up in the same environment, different outcome. You know,
Same household.
Yeah. So it's just, it could be our gender. It could be, there's all sorts of factors. But if you find yourself in general you say yes when you mean no, and you do things you don't want to do, and you walk on eggshells around people, so worried they're going to be upset. If you've left a party and wonder if someone's upset with you, that means that you're struggling with this. You're not alone. We should have a support group. Hi, my name is Katie. I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Hi, my name is Tara. I also am.
And it really just means that we have to check in on ourselves, and we have to find other ways to assuage that anxiety.
Do you have any suggestions off the top of your head?
Of course. They're hard to implement. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just speaking personally that this has been the thing that is so hard for me. Like I've been in therapy since I was 15. Like I said, I'm 41. You do the math. It's been a long time. And this is the hardest for me to eradicate from my life. But there are things that do work. Number one, and this is going to sound silly, notice when you try to make yourself small or get out of the way, quote unquote, get out of the way from people in life, and try to stop doing that and notice how you feel. So the great example, the thing that my therapist had me do, the first homework assignment, was at the grocery store to not apologize.
Yes.
For sharing an aisle with someone, and to not get out of the way, because I'm looking at the same things they're looking at. Why am I apologizing?
Yeah. So why am I shrinking for their space? See, this is the gold, Katie.
Like why can't we both look at cereal? There's a lot of them. I don't know what I want. Also, this is the one time I'm probably out of the house on my own. If I want to be by myself, I'm just going to stand here for a while. Thank you. Like I give every right as much as you. So noticing that, and kind of with that was like, she wanted me to notice how often I apologize, which this has been really hard for me. I say sorry all the time for shit I'm not sorry about. And so she was like, I want you to notice how many times you apologize. I lost count, you guys, so don't judge yourselves. I don't even know. I think I stopped.
You need one of those clickers, like click, click,
pretty
click,
much. And I was like 50, so I'm like, I've lost track.
You're like, I'm done.
And she was like, when you say sorry, I want you to, I want that word to be like a trigger in your brain where you're like, what am I sorry for? And if you can't tell me, she's like, imagine yourself telling me. And if I was like, oh yeah, you should apologize for that. If you think I'd be like, what? You don't apologize.
Yeah.
It's hard, but we can do it. So those are two of the things that I do personally to help me break free. And the like assuasion of the anxiety comes with the story I tell myself. So it's changing the conversation from like, I'm so bad, I'm probably hurting their feelings, they're probably upset, I'm going to be abandoned, or I'm worthless, or whatever we tell ourselves. Instead of allowing that conversation to take place, I notice it and I say, you know what? I didn't actually do anything. Like, I can share an aisle with this person and we can both look at the cereal and it's not a big deal. And that's a completely different conversation to have with yourself. And I have a completely different emotional response. And guess what? I feel less anxious.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. When I'm in a similar situation, because I do tend to shrink in public and private, I don't know, all of it. And the one thing I sort of tell myself, my mantra has been like, they can't hurt me. No one can hurt me. Like, that's the one thing that I sort of use to allay my anxiety in those sort of situations.
Yeah. And I have a right to take up space. As women, we're often told to like, be kind and smile and appease and take care of. But we have to take care of us too. And we have every right to exist just as much as the next person. And I say that as much to you as I say it to me, because we have to remind ourselves, like, I have every right to be here. I'm okay. No one's going to hurt me. I'm in the Whole Foods. It's going to be fine. Like, what do I think is going to happen?
There's no bear chasing me in the Whole Foods.
No.
We're safe. We're okay. Nothing's good.
Yes. Yep, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to pack it up and go home. We're going to be right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think many times the narrative we tell ourselves is that we're being considerate of others, and we're being so considerate of others to our own detriment. Yes. Whether it's in the cereal aisle at the supermarket or in a crowd or in a conversation.
100%. That's I say we wear it like a badge of honor. Like, I am so nice to everybody else. I'm such a good, citizen. I'm such a good neighbor. I'm such a good mom. I'm such a good wife. I'm such a good whatever. And it's not that it's bad to want other people to be happy, but to your point, Tara, it shouldn't be to our own detriment. It's not, I don't have to light myself on fire to keep you warm. We can both have our own fires within ourselves, and that can be fine. And I think as women, we are the caretakers. We are the gatherers of our family. We do so much emotional and physical labor for our families that we, even as children, I think are kind of raised to think that. And so we end up doing more of that in our relationships. I just read an article in the New York Times about like the emotional burden that women feel sometimes from being in relationships. It was essentially why a lot of women aren't getting married till later and aren't dating and stuff like that. And I don't think that's really the answer. Can't run away from it, but it's understanding that you don't have to take that on. Like you said, you don't have to light yourself on fire to keep someone warm, and you have to recognize when you're doing it and stop yourself. Because let me tell you, as someone, like I said, been in therapy for a long time, been working on this a long time, when I don't do my extra over the top, people pleasing, crazy behavior, the world keeps on spinning. People still get what they need done. Yes. I am not, the savior. I'm not the only person that can do it. Yeah. Period. Yeah.
You're not the only one that can get all of this
right?
done.
But we think that,
especially in our own households, right? We think like, well, I'm the only one that could do it this way. I'm the only one that can, whether it's, I don't know, load the dishwasher or make a meal, whatever it happens to be. No one else can do it the way that I can do it. But many times, not always, but many times, mothers can fall into sort of a martyrdom role within that.
Yes, because you put all that weight on yourself. And one of the best pieces of advice my mom gave me, so one of my friends, or maybe one of my aunts, had gotten this book, and everybody who had been married before gave me their best piece of advice about marriage. And there were so many nuggets of wisdom in there, but the one that I'll remember the most is my mom's. And she said, you need to let them help you, because if you don't, you'll end up doing everything and you'll start to resent them. And they're not going to do it the way that you want them to do it, but they're going to do it the way that they do it. And you have to say that that's fine. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, if they clean the house and they don't fold the towels exactly the way, or they don't vacuum it in the way that you want, or they don't do this, she goes, you don't say anything about it. You let it happen and be grateful for the help. And she said, because you cannot do it all.
I think that's really good advice. And it's one of those pieces of advice that until you're in a relationship or married, you don't you wouldn't even know. It wouldn't even register with you correctly until you're in it. Similar with
No.
like parenting advice, right? Like people don't know advice until you actually become parents and you're going through that stage of development. But that is fantastic advice.
Yeah, because we do that, right? We like, and we can even take some pride in it too. And like, oh, I keep the house this kind of way and I do this kind of way. But it's a lot. I mean, I don't have children by choice, but I can't imagine the list of to-dos and the amount of things that you can do when you are. And if you have multiple children, like you have to let them help you. And is it going to get done exactly as you want? No. But does it really matter? No.
No,
Yeah.
you have to involve them. I think that's great advice. I had similar advice. I don't come from a very big advice family. I don't know. They're not spouting wisdom, which is fine. That's a different story altogether. But my husband and I did this thing called pre-Cana, which was like a pre-wedding course, essentially for our search,
like
our church. Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
And so in that, there was this elderly couple who had been married for about 50 years or 60 years. And their advice to us was lower your expectations of each other, of everything, about what you think married life would be, of what you think, how his folding the laundry would be, how her cooking would be, all of those things. And that was something that always stuck with my husband and with myself. And one time I posted about that online on Instagram, and people came to tear it apart because they were you need to have high standards. That's what they were saying. They were confusing.
But those are different things.
The concept, exactly. You get it, Katie. They were confusing the concept between high standards and high expectations. And again, you can't fight with every single person on the internet about semantics and things like that. But there is a distinct difference between high standards and high expectations. I have very high standards for my life. I don't have high expectations.
Well, yeah, because one of my favorite quotes, another YouTube creator, his name's Casey Neistat, his wife had said this, and I thought it was just so beautiful. And she said, expectations without communication are resentments in the making.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know. I'm like, I don't know if it's hers or she stole. I don't care. It's amazing. All kudos to her. And she was saying in regards to marriage, because she's like, you can't, and that's the difference. Standards, meaning you picked a good man. You already knew that. It's not about standards, but my expectations about what he can offer me might be out of whack with what he's actually able to give. And the same for him, for you, because we do have, unfortunately, and I love a rom-com, but we have this like standard of like what it can look like. And, it was even funny. I love Gilmore Girls. I don't know if anybody else loves Gilmore Girls.
Gilmore Girls. My mom and I are like the Gilmore Girls. Even the other day, she said to me, she was watching it and on reruns, obviously. And she was like, Tara, we're like the Gilmore Girls. And I was like, I know, mommy. I know.
And I am too. I'm with that. I talk to my mom all the time. Same. And I love that. And we love that show. And it's funny because my husband's watched it with me, obviously, because he can't escape it. And he was like, I like Logan for Rory. And that can be debatable. People can say whatever, and that's fine. It's fine. And he's like, why do you like that guy? And I'm like, because he changed himself for her. I have all my lists of things. And I'm like, and he can take care of her financially. She doesn't have to stress about it. And we can dive into that thinking that we need this Logan character who doesn't exist, right? He's made up.
Sure.
He's way too attractive. He's like a billionaire. Yeah. He changes himself for Rory magically and becomes this amazing person. I know it takes time and like the character development's good, but I say all that to say that like we watch these shows and we think, I'm going to find my Logan. I'm going to find my Jess or whoever the character is that you like the most. And that's not, you can't have those expectations for someone.
No, you can't. It's interesting that you're talking about expectations, because I'm going to just go into a story that I don't share very often. But speaking of my mom and television, one Christmas season, she was watching too many Hallmark Christmas movies.
Those will get you.
You know what those are like. I've actually never seen them because now I'm so scarred from this story. So she called me Christmas morning and I was like, oh, Merry Christmas. And she's like, Merry Christmas. And she's like, he didn't come. And I was like, what? She's like, he didn't come. I'm like, who, Mom? Like, what are you, like Santa? Yeah. Like, who are you? What are you talking about? What are we? Yeah. Well, like, what are you talking? What do you mean? Like, what is this cryptic? He didn't come. She's like, well, I watched all the movies and my Christmas boyfriend didn't come.
She can't be serious.
That's what I said. I was like, you can't be serious. And she's like, no, he didn't bring him. And I was like, what are we talking about here?
I know there's some like weird magic in those movies sometimes. But, like, that's
But,
not real
like,
life.
no, it's not real life. Like, you need to stop watching these Hallmark movies. But that goes back to expectations not meeting reality.
Yes.
No, you did not magically get a boyfriend because you watched 16 hours of Hallmark
But
Christmas
it almost
movies.
does like program us to think that like he'll just show up.
Yes.
It will all work out and it'll be perfect and he'll fix all my problems. And I'm sorry, but not to quote Sex and the City, which I also love. There's no white knight. He's not coming to save you. You have to save yourself.
Yes.
And that can be a bitter pill to swallow, but it's also super empowering. I don't have to wait for somebody else to try to fix things. I get to take care of me.
Yes.
How
I remind
awesome
my
is
mother
that?
of that all the time. It's super awesome. It's extraordinarily awesome. I
Yes.
remind my mother of that all the time. And I remind her how lucky she is that she does have the independence and the power to do those things. But I just had to share that story about the
Yes.
Hallmark thing because we were talking about reality and TV shows and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, sometimes you have to be careful if you're going too deep down the rabbit hole of whether it's Hallmark movies or whether it's social media, because the very same thing can happen within social media comparison.
Yeah, 100%. And we have to recognize when we're being, I hate to use the term like brainwashed, rather I'd say influenced.
That's the right word.
Because just think of like how influenced we are. Like how many times have you had someone on your feed talk about the best pillows or the best mop or the best, I don't know, laundry detergent, and you screen grab it and you get on Amazon and you buy it or whatever. You were influenced. Somebody told you it's great. You trust them for whatever reason. And then you go and you get it. Now that happens because we are malleable. We are, able to be influenced. And it doesn't mean that we can be brainwashed and we're going to do whatever, but like you have to pay attention to like, what am I digesting? And then what expectations do I have based on that? I think these unrealistic expectations on relationships and things like that has kind of changed the younger generation, like the Gen Z, for lack of a better term, where they think that like, you have to have this perfect dating experience with this perfect person who checks all these boxes and never says anything that's upsetting, never says anything that's triggering, never questions you or the way that you think. And I'm here to tell people, unfortunately, that's just not reality. We have to grow together. We have to allow for difficult conversations and someone who's not perfect, because let me tell you, none of us are. And the person who thinks that's not perfect either, and that I think, relationships like that can be beautiful if you let them, but you have to go through some of the icky sometimes, and obviously it doesn't mean date anybody and let someone mistreat you, but there's a big difference, again, semantics, big difference between finding someone who's good for you and a good fit, but they're not perfect and expecting them to be, and finding someone who's like a total jackass and like treats you like trash. Like those are very different things. And I think we all know the difference.
Gosh, I hope people do.
And I worry that they don't.
Well, honestly, that is a big concern. It really is. It really is. So I have two more questions for you, and I'm trying to think of which order I want to do one. Let's do this one first.
Okay.
You have a new book coming out.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
It's called Why Do I Keep Doing This? Isn't she pretty?
She's so pretty. I love the loop-de-loop. I love that, the handwritten stuff.
I can take zero credit for that. You don't get to make the covers. And thank God I'm not very artistic. But my new book, Why Do I Keep Doing This, is essentially a part of what we're talking about, that issue with control. You're following me as I talk about my precarious and very uncomfortable relationship with control and all the whack-a-mole ways it shows up. I start off by talking about kind of like the blueprint of your life. Like we talk about growing up and how our parents interact and how that affects us, right? I talk about that and how it affects me and my relationship with myself. And then you're kind of, for better, for worse, I'm taking you through my life and like the struggles that I have or currently still have. The difference of this book compared to my other books is it's not really prescriptive. It's not a like, let me help you like fix it book. It's like a come along story. Like, hey, let's come along together as I show you the ways I've messed up and the ways I'm trying to do better and the things I still don't know. And my hope for people that read it is that it not only offers some tools and tips, because there's things I've done that are helpful for me, that it's helpful to them, but it also just reminds them that we're all works in progress. Nobody has it 100% figured out. I wonder all the time, why do I keep doing this? That's what the title actually came from, me journaling about this and being like, why do I keep doing this same thing? Like, it's so frustrating. And that was in regards to people pleasing. Why do I keep doing this? I keep putting myself in these situations. And so the book is really probably the most personal piece of work I've done, but I'm the most proud of it. And I'm excited for people to read it.
Yay, I'm proud of it for you. I can't wait for everyone to read it. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It's interesting that you're saying about the why do I keep doing this and journaling about that. I said recently, it was a few months ago now, heard Gabor Mate speak, and he was absolutely fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. And one of the themes, I mean, he has several talking points that he speaks on, but one of his themes is that the body keeps score. And he spent almost 45 minutes, if not an hour, speaking about how our bodies absorb the stress and the anxiety that we have. And he talks about not lighting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And that particular talk, or sitting and bearing witness to the things that he was saying, really made such an impact on me that I was like, that's when I have to stop with this people pleasing stuff. I cannot be everything to everybody all of the time. I just cannot do it, because God forbid someday I get sick and then I'm going to look back and be like, yes, that's because my body was under so much stress and I wasn't regulating my nervous system correctly and all of those things. And so I completely understand about putting a stop to these certain behaviors.
Yeah, because it does take its toll on us. And I love Gabor. He's so good too. Yeah. Oh, he just speaks to your soul, you know? Yeah. And it is, we don't realize the weight of it, like why we get sick all the time or why our back is hurting. And I mean, those are just two examples, but there can be a myriad of health issues and not sleeping well. All of that can come from the fact that we're not taking care of ourselves. And I know a lot of people think like, oh, this self-care, taking care of yourself. Like, it's a lot of people, talking about getting shit online for posting something. I posted something about like, if a relationship requires you to like lose yourself in it, it's not worth having, essentially was the message. And some people like want to tear it apart. Like, you don't think you can have like you don't know what a full and fulfilling relationship is. You don't know what family means. And I was like, whoa. And honestly, I felt kind of sad for them, because I was like, if you can't see that, like, you get to exist, you get to take care of yourself, you get to exist on your own, and adding things to it is beautiful and amazing. And we have to have that boundary in between. And I know it's hard. Trust me, boundaries are hard, but they're necessary for all of our survival. You know, I talk about boundaries in the book a lot because people pleasing. And I always try to describe them as boundaries are the space within where I can love me and you at the same time.
Yes. You know? Such a good one. Such a good one. That is absolutely amazing. This is my last question. And I ask this to people, whether they are parents or not parents, because it's pivotal to the show. What do you think is the biggest modern mom problem right now?
I think, to be truthful, we try to overcompensate. And what I mean by that is there's so much information out there in the world, and we can see all the ways that our parents messed up and the ways they messed us up. And instead of seeking to understand and making small tweaks, we're swinging the pendulum all the way. And we do that. If you look historically speaking, like tough parenting, soft parenting, right? Versus, hey, maybe there's a nice middle ground. Maybe there are some things that I like that my parents did. We don't have to, and this is like pun intended, throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to parenting. And I think we do that. And then we see it in the generations of how we're raised. Like, my husband's a Gen Xer. And it's like latchkey kid to the max, where he'll tell me stories. I'm like, where the hell were your parents? He's like, oh, I don't know. Like, he had no idea. He's like, we just ran wild. So, but then you get like the too coddled, where like, we have a neighbor on our street. They like are helicopter parents to the max, because they're Gen X. Their parents were like not there. And so their kids like get nervous to go to their friend's house on their own. And I'm like, see, there's gotta be a middle, you know, a space where you feel safe at home and your parents are there for you, but they're not over top of you and not allowing you to do what you need to do to be independent and to test that independence, you know? So I think that's the biggest problem, is that it's almost like we have too much information, and we need to find a happy middle.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Just last week, I had my son, he's 12 and a half, on the podcast, and I asked him, what advice would you give for parents? And he more or less did the same thing, in as much as he said moderation, and he said give kids independence, and then that's going to build their confidence. It's actually a really great
He's so
episode.
smart. Look at how wise for 12. Oh, and you're about to get into the teens. I'll pray for you.
Thank you. I'll need it. But
boys are different than girls, but still, yeah.
But still.
Prayer all the same.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Kati Morton, tell everyone where we could watch you on YouTube, on Insta, buy your books, all the things. Tell us all the things.
Yeah. Across all socials, it's Kati Morton. That's KATIMORTON. Think Morton like the salt. That's all of my socials, and my books are all available on Amazon. You can pre-order Why Do I Keep Doing This? It comes out December 9th. Thank you so much, Tara.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it was a delight. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you could head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.